Hello, my friend. Welcome to a new episode of Daily English Podcast. If you're here today, it means something powerful. You're ready to go deeper into who you are, not just on the outside, how you speak, how you look, or how others see you, but inside, where your self-esteem truly lives. This episode is not just about learning English. It's about learning yourself. We're going to walk through something called the pyramid of self-esteem, a simple but powerful model that shows you how to build your confidence from the inside out. Most people think confidence is something you just have or don't have. They think self-esteem is about being loud, bold, or fearless, but that's not true. Real self-esteem doesn't start with being perfect. It starts with being honest. It starts with one powerful step, self-awareness. And that's what we're beginning with today. But first, let me tell you a story. There was a boy named Rami. Rami was quiet, not because he didn't have thoughts, but because he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. At school, he sat in the back. He always looked like he was thinking, but when the teacher called his name, he froze. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because he didn't believe in his answer, or in himself. One day, the teacher gave a simple assignment. Write one page about yourself. What do you notice about who you are? Rami looked at the paper, and nothing came. Because the truth was, he didn't really know. He knew his favorite video game. He knew what foods he liked. He knew the subjects he struggled with. But when it came to understanding himself, his patterns, his strengths, his fears, he was lost. That night, Rami's older sister found him sitting in bed, still holding the blank paper. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I don't know what to write," Rami whispered. She looked at him and said, "Okay, then don't write what you know. Write what you notice." Rami blinked. She continued, "Start with little things. Do you get quiet when people argue? Do you feel jealous sometimes when others do well? Do you feel proud when you help someone? Don't judge your answers, just notice them." Self-awareness doesn't start with knowing everything. It starts with noticing yourself. And that night, Rami did just that. He didn't write a perfect paper, but he wrote one that was honest. And for the first time, he didn't feel ashamed of who he was. He felt aware. And that was the beginning of everything. That is what self-awareness looks like. Not perfection, not confidence, just noticing with honesty. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you really stopped and looked at yourself? Not your job, not your goals, not your to-do list, but you. As a human being, do you know what makes you shut down in conversations? Do you know which environments drain your energy? Do you know what lights you up? What brings you joy? Self-awareness isn't always loud. It's not about showing others who you are. It's about gently discovering who you are in private moments. It's like turning the lights on in a dark room. The furniture was always there. You just couldn't see it. Here's the truth. Most people walk through life blindfolded, reacting to things, copying others, repeating patterns, without ever pausing to understand why they do what they do. But the most powerful change happens when you start to ask small, quiet questions like, why do I feel nervous around this person? Why do I always say yes even when I'm tired? Why do I stop trying when things get hard? Why do I feel jealous of my friend's success? Why do I avoid certain conversations? These questions may feel uncomfortable, but they are gold because they reveal something powerful, your inner world. And the more aware you are of your inner world, the more control you have over your outer one. Let me share another story. There was a woman who worked in a hospital. She was kind, responsible, and good at her job. But every night when she came home, she felt exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally. She thought she just needed rest. But the tiredness didn't go away. One evening, her friend asked her, "Do you actually enjoy your job?" She paused, and then for the first time, she said, "I don't know." That question shook her. For years, she had been living on autopilot, doing what she was supposed to do, wearing a smile, being helpful. But she had never stopped to check in with herself. She realized something painful. She had never asked herself what she wanted. From that moment on, she started keeping a journal. Every night, she would write just one thing. What did I feel today? Some days it was frustration. Some days it was joy. Some days confusion. But every entry brought her closer to knowing herself, and that awareness gave her the courage to make small changes, shifting her work schedule, joining a weekend class she loved, and speaking up more often at work. She didn't quit her job, but she started living more honestly, and that changed everything. That's the power of self-awareness. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require talent. It only asks one thing. Pay attention to yourself. Start with simple observations. I feel peaceful when I walk outside. I feel annoyed when I'm rushed. I avoid phone calls because I fear being misunderstood. I eat when I'm bored, not hungry. You don't need to fix anything yet. You just need to see it clearly. Because when you see yourself clearly, you start to make choices that actually serve you. You stop following people blindly. You stop blaming the world. You stop fearing your own emotions. You begin to take gentle ownership of your life. So, if you're listening to this right now, I want to ask you something simple. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, what did I feel today? What gave me energy? What drained me? Did I act from love or fear? What pattern am I repeating? This is not a test. There is no right answer. But there is a true answer, and that answer lives inside you. You don't need a therapist to get started. You don't need a book. You just need to be honest with yourself, with kindness. That's what self-awareness is. It's not about judging, it's about noticing. And once you notice, you can begin to heal. In the next part of this episode, we'll move to the second level of the pyramid. Self-acceptance. But don't rush. Stay with this level a little longer. Spend the next day or two gently noticing your emotions, your energy, and your thoughts, like a quiet observer. No shame, no pressure, just presence. Because self-awareness is the foundation. It's where your journey truly begins. You are not lost. You are learning to look within, and that is one of the bravest things you can ever do. Welcome back, my friend. In our last part, we talked about self-awareness, the first and most powerful step in building real confidence. We learned how to notice ourselves with honesty, not to judge, not to fix, just to observe. And now, we take the next brave step. It's time to talk about something that sounds simple, but is often one of the hardest things to do. Self-acceptance. Let me begin with a true story. There was once a young woman named Hannah. She had always felt a little different from the people around her. In school, she didn't talk much. She loved books, quiet walks, and writing poems no one ever read. She wasn't the loudest, the funniest, or the prettiest. And for a long time, she believed that meant she wasn't enough. Every time she looked in the mirror, she found something to hate. Her voice was too soft. Her eyes were too plain. Her ideas felt small, so she tried to become someone else. She copied the way her classmates talked. She wore clothes she didn't like just to fit in. She laughed at jokes that weren't funny, just to feel accepted. But here's the thing. Even when people liked her, she still felt empty, because no one truly saw her. Why? Because she was hiding, not from the world, but from herself. One day, Hannah's teacher gave a strange assignment. "Write a love letter," the teacher said, "but not to another person, to yourself." The room went silent. Everyone stared. A love letter to yourself? Hannah felt her chest tighten. That night, she sat at her desk with a blank paper in front of her. She didn't know what to write. She didn't feel lovable. But then, she remembered something. Years ago, when she was 8, she had written a poem and hidden it in a drawer. She got up, found the drawer, and read the old poem. It was full of mistakes, but it was full of feeling, too. Honest, sweet, soft. She smiled, and suddenly her heart softened. Maybe there was something lovable in her after all. She picked up her pen and began to write. "Dear me," she began, "I know I've been hard on you. I've compared you. I've blamed you. I've tried to change you. But tonight I just want to say thank you. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for trying. Thank you for being gentle even when the world was rough. You're not perfect. But maybe that's okay." That was the first time Hannah felt something new. Not pride, not confidence, but peace. She had stopped fighting herself. And that, my friend, is the beginning of self-acceptance. Now I want to speak directly to you. Maybe you've also carried silent shame. Maybe you've looked at yourself and thought, I should be stronger. I should be better. I should be thinner, richer, louder, happier. But what if I told you something different? What if I said, you don't need to be more to be worthy? You don't need to be perfect to be accepted. You are already enough. Even with your struggles, your scars, your softness. Self-acceptance is not the same as giving up. It's not saying, I'll never change. It's saying, I accept who I am today, while I grow into who I want to be. It's saying, I can love myself now, not just when I finally become my ideal version. That is the power of self-acceptance. Here's a simple example. Imagine a little child learning how to walk. They fall, they wobble, they bump into things. But what does the parent do? They don't shout, "Why aren't you running yet?" They smile, they cheer, they say, "You're doing great, keep going." Now ask yourself, why don't you speak to yourself that way? Why do you shame yourself for struggling? You are learning too. You are still growing. You deserve patience. You deserve encouragement. Let me tell you about someone else. There was a man named Aaron. He had always been the responsible one in his family. He got good grades. He worked hard. He never asked for help. But inside, he was full of pressure. He never cried. He never admitted weakness. He thought, if I show emotion, people will think I'm weak. But it wasn't true. One day he finally broke down. At work, during a stressful project, he had a panic attack. He sat alone in the bathroom, shaking. He felt ashamed. He kept thinking, "What's wrong with me? Why can't I handle this?" That evening, his friend called and asked if he was okay. He wanted to lie. But instead, for the first time, he said, "I'm not okay." And his friend didn't reject him. In fact, his friend said, "I've had days like that too. You're not broken. You're human," Aaron cried. Not because he was weak, but because he was finally being real. That was the day he started accepting all parts of himself. Not just the strong parts, but the soft parts too. You see, self-acceptance means this. I accept my voice even if it's quiet. I accept my body even if it's not perfect. I accept my history even if it's messy. I accept my feelings even when they're uncomfortable. I accept my needs even if others don't understand them. It doesn't mean I stop growing. It just means I stop punishing myself for not being finished yet. And here's something else that matters. You can't truly love others if you secretly hate yourself. Because when you reject your own heart, you start looking for love in the wrong places, in approval, in status, in performance. But when you accept yourself, you stop needing others to complete you. You begin to stand tall on your own 2 feet. You say, I am allowed to exist as I am, and I don't need to shrink to be loved. That is powerful. Let's practice together. Take a moment, close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and whisper, I accept myself. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm trying. Because I care, because I'm still learning, and that is enough. Say it again. I accept myself, here, now, today. Even if you're tired, even if you're not where you want to be, even if your story is messy, you are worthy of kindness, especially from yourself. So what can you do this week? Here are some small, real steps to practice self-acceptance. Write a letter to yourself. No judgment, just gratitude. Look in the mirror and name 3 things you like about yourself. When you make a mistake, say, that's okay, I'm still learning. Stop saying I'm sorry for things that don't need apologies. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a child you love. You don't have to fake confidence. You just have to stop rejecting yourself. That's where real confidence begins. Let me leave you with this. The people who shine the brightest are not the ones who are perfect. They're the ones who are honest. They've made peace with who they are, and that peace shines through their words, their actions, and their quiet strength. So shine, not because you've fixed everything, but because you've accepted everything, and you're still standing, still growing, still loving yourself through it all. That's what real strength is. You've come so far. We've talked about self-awareness, the moment you open your eyes to yourself. Then we move to self-acceptance, the courage to stop rejecting who you are. Now we rise to the third layer of the pyramid. This one is quiet, invisible, but it shapes everything you say, do, and believe. It's called self-worth. Let's begin with a story. There was a boy named Luan. He grew up in a small house with peeling paint and cracked floors. His parents worked hard, but struggled to pay bills. Every time he asked for new shoes or a school bag, his father would say, "Be grateful, we don't have money for extras." So Luan stopped asking. In class, he was smart, but when the teacher praised him, he would look down. When he won an art contest, he told people it was just luck. And when he got a scholarship in high school, he almost didn't accept it. Why? Because deep down, he didn't believe he deserved it. Luan had learned something early in life, something dangerous. That worth had to be earned. That love had to be proved. That value was something outside of him, something he had to chase, and many people live this way. They confuse achievement with worth. They confuse popularity with value. They confuse being useful with being worthy. But here's the truth. Self-worth is not something you earn. It's something you remember. You were born worthy, before your first word, before your first grade, before your first mistake. A baby doesn't have to do anything to be loved. It just exists. And people smile. Somewhere along the way, we forget this. We learn that we have to prove ourselves. We believe we have to be more, smarter, richer, prettier, just to be enough. But that's a lie, and it's time to unlearn it. Let me ask you, have you ever stayed in a toxic friendship because you didn't want to be alone? Have you ever worked too hard, too long, because you believed rest had to be earned? Have you ever let someone treat you badly because you thought maybe you deserved it? These are signs of a wound in your sense of worth, and healing that wound doesn't mean you become arrogant. It means you stop begging for love and start giving it to yourself. Let me share another story. There was a woman named Mira. She was always the helper. If someone needed a ride, she said yes. If someone needed money, she gave it. If someone needed time, she canceled her own plans. People called her kind, but inside, she was tired and sad. Because the truth was, she didn't believe people would love her if she said no. She believed her worth came from what she gave, not who she was. One night, Mira's friend forgot her birthday, not just forgot, ignored it completely. And Mira cried, but not just because her friend forgot. She cried because she realized something. She had spent her life making sure others felt worthy, but never gave herself the same gift. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Who am I if I stop overgiving? Who am I if I say no? Do I still matter if I don't perform?" That was the beginning of her healing, the beginning of claiming back her worth. You see, real self-worth says, I am enough, even when I'm quiet. I deserve rest, even if I didn't finish my list. I am lovable, even when I'm not useful. I am valuable, even when I make mistakes. Self-worth doesn't shout. It whispers. It stands quietly in the back of the room and knows, I belong here. If you've ever thought, I'll feel better when I lose weight. I'll be worthy when I get that job. I'll love myself when I earn more money. Pause, because you're attaching your value to conditions. But your worth is not a reward. It's your birthright. You don't earn it. You are it. Here's a powerful exercise. Think of a child you love, or imagine a little version of you. Would you tell that child, you'll be valuable when you get straight A's? You'll be lovable when you look perfect? You don't matter unless you're helping others? Of course not. You'd hold that child close and say, you matter just because you're here. So why don't you say that to yourself? You are still that child, still learning, still growing, still worthy. Let's go deeper. When you forget your worth, your life starts to reflect that. You tolerate toxic people. Sick. Stay in places that drain you. Apologize for existing. Fear rejection more than you value peace. Say yes to things that break your spirit. But when you remember your worth, everything changes. You choose people who respect you. Walk away from drama. Ask for what you need. Rest without guilt. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Because you know this one truth. You don't have to earn your right to be here. You already have it. Let me tell you a quiet moment from my own life. There was a time I struggled to speak up. Even small things, like asking a waiter to correct an order, felt hard. I didn't want to be too much. I didn't want to seem difficult. But the truth was, I didn't believe my needs were important. That changed the day someone said to me, "You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself." That hit me deep. If I act like my feelings don't matter, others will believe it too. If I ignore my needs, others will feel free to do the same. From that day forward, I began small. I corrected the order. I said no to things I didn't want. I asked for help without apologizing, and each time I did, I whispered to myself, I am worthy, just as I am. So here's your reminder, friend. You are not your mistakes. You are not your past. You are not your job, your salary, or your popularity. You are a whole, valuable, beautiful human being, and your worth was never up for debate. Let's breathe together. Inhale. I am enough. Exhale. Right now. Again. Inhale. I deserve love and respect. Exhale. Even when I'm still growing. Once more. Inhale. My worth is not a question. Exhale. It is my truth. You don't have to prove anything today. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be busy. Just remember your worth, because it never left you. It was always here, waiting for you to see it. You've climbed 3 powerful steps. You became aware of who you are. You accepted yourself, without judgment, and you remembered your worth, the value that never left you. Now we rise again to something that may feel harder, but is even more important. Self-respect. Because knowing your worth is one thing, but standing up for it, that's a different kind of strength. Let's begin with a story. There was a man named Davin. Everyone said he was kind, always smiling, always helpful. At work, he stayed late. At home, he picked up after others. In his relationship, he gave and gave. But inside, Davin was tired. He wasn't just exhausted. He felt invisible, unheard, unseen. His girlfriend never asked how his day was. His co-workers piled extra tasks on his desk. His family expected him to say yes to everything. And the worst part? He let it happen. Why? Because he confused kindness with silence. He thought being good meant being small. He believed that love meant never saying no. Until one night after a long shift, he came home to find his partner had invited friends over. Again, without asking. His food was gone. His room was messy. No one noticed him walk in. He went to the bathroom, shut the door, and cried. That night, something changed. He realized, I don't feel respected because I never demanded it. That's what we're talking about today. Not arrogance, not selfishness, but self-respect, the quiet power to say, no thank you. I don't deserve to be spoken to that way. I need rest. I won't let anyone treat me less than I treat myself. Self-respect is not loud, it's not dramatic, it's firm, calm, strong. It's knowing that your time matters, that your energy matters, that your boundaries are not walls, they are doors, doors you open by choice, not by guilt. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said yes when you wanted to say no? Apologized just to keep the peace? Let someone disrespect you and told yourself it's okay? Ignored your own voice to keep others happy? That's not humility. That's self-abandonment, and self-respect is the cure. There's another story I want to share. A woman named Saray worked in a company where she was the only one who stayed late every day. She didn't complain. She wanted to do her best. She told herself, maybe they'll notice. Maybe they'll appreciate me. But they didn't. Instead, they gave her more. One day, a new coworker joined. He did half the work, took long lunches, and left on time. Yet he got promoted before she did. She was shocked, then sad, then angry, and finally, quiet. She went home that day and asked herself, do I respect myself if I stay silent? That week, she walked into her boss's office, her voice shaking, and said, I'd like to talk about my responsibilities and about what I need to keep working at my best. Her hands were sweating, but her heart was steady, because for the first time, she was standing up for herself. And that moment changed everything. You see, self-respect is not about what others do. It's about what you allow. If you constantly tolerate disrespect, people will assume it's acceptable. Not because they're evil, but because you've never said it's not okay. But when you begin to respect yourself, you change the energy of every room you walk into. You don't have to scream. You don't have to explain. Your presence says, I value myself, and I invite you to do the same. Here are some truths to remember. Saying no is not rude. It's healthy. Walking away is not weakness. It's wisdom. Asking for space is not cold. It's clarity. Refusing mistreatment is not drama. It's dignity. Let me ask you, where in your life are you staying silent? Who are you allowing to treat you less than you deserve? What do you keep tolerating that you would never want for someone you love? Now ask, would you want your child, your friend, or your younger self to accept this? If the answer is no, then why should you? Let's talk about boundaries. Many people fear setting boundaries because they think, they'll get mad. They'll leave. They won't understand. They'll think I'm selfish. But here's the truth. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always resist when you set them. That's not your fault. And it's not your job to please everyone. Your job is to protect your peace. Not with anger, with love, with clarity, with calm. Here's a practice. This week, say this simple line when something doesn't feel right. I'm not comfortable with that. No drama, no long speech, just truth. If someone asks too much of your time, I'd love to help, but I need to take care of myself right now. If someone makes a rude comment, that felt disrespectful. Please don't speak to me that way. If someone crosses your line, I need some space. Let's talk another time. This is not cold. This is clear. This is respect for yourself and for others. You might lose people when you set boundaries, but you'll find yourself. You'll wake up with more energy. You'll sleep with more peace. You'll walk with more strength. And you'll stop chasing love that doesn't respect you back. Let's breathe. Inhale. My voice matters. Exhale. I will speak it. Inhale. My needs are valid. Exhale. I will honor them. Inhale. My peace is sacred. Exhale. I will protect it. Here are some signs of healthy self-respect. You say no without guilt. You walk away from people who drain you. You don't explain your choices to those who judge. You trust your intuition. You stand tall, even if your voice shakes. And here's the magic part. The more you respect yourself, the more others will too. Because the way you treat yourself teaches the world how to treat you. So raise your standard, raise your energy, raise your voice with grace. You don't need to be aggressive, just firm, just honest, just aligned. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not difficult. You are aware. You are growing. You are learning to protect what matters, and what matters most is your self-respect. You've made it. This is the final step. You've walked through self-awareness, seeing yourself clearly, self-acceptance, embracing who you are. Self-worth, remembering your value. Self-respect, protecting your peace and boundaries. And now, you arrive at the top of the pyramid, the place many chase, but few truly understand. Self-esteem. Most people think self-esteem is about confidence, standing tall, smiling bright, speaking up, but those are just the fruits. The real self-esteem, it's the root. It's the quiet knowing deep inside that says, I trust who I am, not because I'm perfect, not because I never fail, but because I know myself, and I like myself, even on the hard days. Let me tell you about someone named Amara. Amara was a teacher. She didn't have many followers on social media. She wasn't famous or rich. But when she walked into a room, people noticed her. She wasn't loud. She wasn't flashy. But her presence was solid. Students respected her. Parents trusted her. Colleagues admired her calm. Why? Because she respected herself. And she believed in her own voice. That belief didn't come from compliments. It came from integrity. She knew her values. She kept her word. She spoke kindly, to herself and to others. That's real self-esteem. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't break under pressure. It stands with grace. Let's break this down. Self-esteem means you believe you're enough, even when no one claps. You bounce back after failure because you trust your growth. You speak kindly to yourself, especially when no one's watching. You act in alignment with your values, not for approval, but from purpose. Self-esteem doesn't mean you never feel insecure. It means your insecurity doesn't control you. You feel the fear, but you move anyway. You feel the doubt, but you don't shrink. You carry yourself with quiet power because you've built something solid inside. Here's another story. There was a boy named Rith. He used to compare himself to everyone. If someone got a better score, he felt like a failure. If someone looked more confident, he stayed silent. If someone was praised, he felt invisible. He believed that worth and confidence came from winning. Until one day, he failed a university entrance test. He didn't tell anyone. He stopped going out. He believed it was over. Then one evening, his grandfather sat beside him and said, "You think you've lost, but you've just begun. Real confidence isn't proven in success. It's proven in rebuilding yourself after disappointment." That night, Rith cried. Then he got up, started again, applied again. Not because he believed he was perfect, but because he believed he was capable of growing. And that was the start of his real self-esteem. That's what I want to remind you. Self-esteem doesn't come from winning. It comes from the way you rise after you fall. It's not about your image. It's about your inner foundation. You trust your choices. You respect your efforts. You speak gently to your mistakes. You don't need to impress anyone. You've impressed yourself. Here's a mindset shift. Don't build your self-esteem on achievements. They can be lost. Build it on integrity. It never fades. Ask yourself, did I try my best today? Did I speak with honesty? Did I treat people well, including myself? Did I grow, even a little? If the answer is yes, that's enough. That's solid self-esteem. Let me give you a simple practice. Each night before bed, ask yourself, what did I do today that made me proud? Not perfect, not popular, just proud. Did you speak your truth? Apologize when needed? Say no when you were tired? Try again after failing? That's strength. That's self-esteem. Now let's talk about how to protect it, because self-esteem can be fragile if you don't guard it. Here's how people lose it: comparing themselves constantly, criticizing their bodies or minds, staying in relationships that lower their energy, ignoring their values to please others, chasing validation online or offline. But here's how you protect it. Stay aligned with your truth. Celebrate small wins. Spend time with people who uplift you. Rest without guilt. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Let's do this together. Breathe in. I believe in myself. Breathe out. I trust my growth. Breathe in. I'm enough today. Breathe out. I don't need to prove anything. Breathe in. I carry quiet power. Breathe out. And I rise again. Let me ask you this. Can you still respect yourself when no one's watching? Can you still believe in yourself when no one claps? Can you still love yourself on the days you feel broken? That's real self-esteem. Not external. Internal. Not loud. Rooted. Not perfect. Peaceful. Here's one final story. A man in his 40s was asked, "What's your biggest success in life?" He didn't say his house, or job, or car. He smiled and said, "I became someone I like being alone with." That is the goal. Not just becoming rich, not just becoming admired, but becoming someone you're proud to walk beside. You trust when things get hard. You enjoy spending time with. That is the heart of self-esteem. You've now climbed the pyramid. Step by step, and here's what it looks like all together. Self-awareness. I see who I am. Self-acceptance. I embrace who I am. Self-worth. I matter, no conditions. Self-respect. I protect my peace. Self-esteem. I carry myself with calm confidence. This is not a one-time journey. It's a daily practice. But now, you have the map, and the power is already inside you. Close your eyes. Put your hand on your heart and say gently, I am enough. I am growing. I am healing. I am powerful. And I'm proud of the person I'm becoming. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up with honesty, with heart, and with hope. And you've done that today. You've climbed the pyramid, and now it's time to live from it. Not to prove, but to be, because you, my friend, are already enough.